What if the most important character in Shutter Island never speaks a word? What if the truth was staring at you, watching you, from the beginning? The eyes that follow Teddy Daniels across the island aren't just the empty stares of the mentally ill. They're witnesses, especially hers. Everyone thought she was crazy. But her silence held the clue that exposed everything. In 2009, Martin Scorsese crafted a psychological labyrinth where nothing is what it seems. A federal marshal hunts a missing patient on an island asylum while a storm brews, both outside and within his fractured mind. But while we focus on his investigation, she watches, the silent woman, the one who never speaks, the one whose eyes track him through hallways and courtyards with an awareness that cuts deeper than words ever could. She never spoke, but she might have known more than anyone. Her silence isn't emptiness, it's recognition. In her eyes lies the reflection of a truth too painful to voice, a mirror Teddy refuses to look into, because on Shutter Island, sanity isn't about what you see. It's about what you allow yourself to remember. By the end of this breakdown, you'll understand why her silence wasn't madness. It was clarity, the kind that comes when you've witnessed a man create an elaborate fiction rather than face his own. Reflection. Her quiet gaze contains the film's most devastating truth. Sometimes the real monster isn't locked away in Ward C. Sometimes it's the detective desperately trying to find it. The storm isn't just coming to Shutter Island. It's been raging inside Teddy Daniels all along, and she knew, she always knew. The year is 1954. U.S. Marshal Edward Teddy Daniels and his new partner Chuck All arrive at Ashcliff Hospital, a fortress-like asylum for the criminally insane located on the remote Shutter Island. They've been sent to investigate the disappearance of patient Rachel Solando, a woman who drowned her 3 children and has now vanished from a locked room, seemingly evaporating into the island's rocky terrain. From the moment their ferry pushes through the fog, something feels wrong. The guards are too tense, the staff too accommodating. Dr. Corley, the facility's head psychiatrist, openly discusses patients yet keeps their files restricted. Teddy's migraine headaches intensify as soon as he sets foot on the island, accompanied by strange dreams of his dead wife Dolores. And everywhere he goes, patients watch him, some with fear, others with confusion, but a few with something closer to recognition. And there she is, in the garden during their tour of the grounds, a woman sitting alone, separated from the others. She doesn't shuffle like the other patients, doesn't rock or mumble. She simply watches Teddy with focused intensity. Their eyes meet for just a moment, and something passes between them, an unspoken acknowledgement. She doesn't wave or call out, just watches, observes, waits. "Who is she?" Teddy asks Dr. Corley, nodding toward the woman. "Another patient," Corley responds dismissively. "Catatonic most of the time. Rarely speaks. But why does she watch him? Like she's waiting for him to remember?" This silent observer will appear again and again throughout Teddy's investigation. A recurring presence at the edges of scenes, her eyes following his movements with unsettling awareness. While other patients rave or withdraw, she remains perfectly still, a human lighthouse cutting through the fog of deception that blankets the island. As the investigation begins, Teddy reveals to Chuck that he has an ulterior motive for taking this case. He believes Ashcliff harbors a former arsonist named Andrew Laedis, the man responsible for the fire that killed Teddy's wife. Beyond that, Teddy suspects the facility is conducting radical experiments on patients, transforming them into compliant shadows through lobotomies and experimental drugs. The missing Rachel Solando might be his key to exposing everything, but the silent woman keeps watching and waiting. The search for Rachel Solando quickly descends into a nightmare of contradiction and paranoia. Staff claim she vanished from a locked room under constant observation. Fellow patients offer cryptic, responses, or refuse to speak entirely. Notes passed secretly to Teddy warn of dangers hidden in plain sight. And a massive storm has cut off all communication with the mainland, trapping everyone on the island. In Rachel's empty room, Teddy discovers a code hidden beneath her floorboards, a series of numbers and letters that seem to confirm his suspicions about experimentation, the law of 4, who is 67. The message feels like validation, but it only pulls him deeper into the labyrinth. Dr. Corley and his mysterious colleague Dr. Naring suggest Teddy's determination stems from trauma rather than evidence. When they mention his wife's death, Teddy's rage erupts, a momentary crack in his composed facade. The doctors exchange glances. They've touched a nerve, or perhaps pressed a button they knew would trigger a specific response. Through halls and grounds, the silent woman appears. During a group therapy session, she sits in the back, watching. When Teddy interviews a patient who claims to be the real Rachel Solando, the silent woman passes by the doorway, pausing just long enough for their eyes to meet again. In the cafeteria, she sits alone, her gaze finding him across the crowded room, never approaching, never speaking, just witnessing. "I've seen her before," Teddy tells Chuck. "That quiet woman. She keeps showing up." "Maybe she likes you," Chuck jokes, but his laughter feels hollow. Teddy's investigation leads him toward C, the fortress within the fortress where the most dangerous patients are kept. Here, in circular conversations with the truly deranged, Teddy encounters George Noyce, a patient who claims to recognize him. "You were never here to find a missing patient," Noyce hisses. "You're here because of him, because of Ledis." The name triggers another migraine, another vision of Dolores, surrounded by water, her body soaking wet, yet somehow burning. "You should have saved me," she whispers in these visions. "You should have let me go." As Teddy stumbles from Ward C into the stormy night, he glimpses the silent woman standing at a window, watching him through the rain. Unlike the other faces pressed against the glass, patients entranced by the storm's violence, her expression carries no excitement or fear, only patient observation. Her finger rises slowly to her lips in a gentle shh gesture that could be madness or a warning. Is she trying to tell him something? Or is she part of his unraveling? Later, searching the lighthouse where he believes the experiments take place, Teddy finds only an old groundskeeper. "There's no Rachel Solando," the man tells him. Never was. When Teddy returns to the main facility, soaked and increasingly unstable, he passes the silent woman in the corridor. For the first time, she does more than watch. She shakes her head slightly, a nearly imperceptible gesture that speaks volumes. Like she knows he's walking deeper into a trap of his own making. The silent woman isn't just another patient. She's a visual metaphor for unspoken truth, the awareness that hovers at the edge of consciousness, waiting for recognition. While Teddy chases phantoms across the island, she remains constant, a still point in his chaotic investigation. Not part of his delusion, but rather a witness to it. Teddy's nightmares intensify. Water and fire intertwine in visions where his wife crumbles to ash while remaining somehow drenched. His children float face down in a lake that wasn't there. Andrew Laedis appears with a scarred face, lighting matches that transform into droplets. Nothing makes sense, yet everything feels terribly significant. "Your migraines," Dr. Corley suggests during another tense conversation, "have you considered they might be withdrawal symptoms?" Teddy's reality fractures further when he loses track of Chuck. His partner has vanished, and suddenly the staff claim he came to the island alone. The solid ground of his investigation has turned to quicksand. Even his badge feels wrong in his hands, too light, too new. In his desperate search for Chuck, Teddy ventures into caves along the island's rocky coast. There he encounters a woman hiding in the darkness, a bedraggled figure claiming to be the real Rachel Solando, a former doctor at the facility who discovered their experiments and was committed to silence her. Her story matches Teddy's suspicions perfectly, too perfectly. She speaks of lobotomies, mind control, psychotropic medication developed from early Nazi research. "Do you know what they're really doing here?" she asks, eyes wild in the dim light. "Creating ghosts, people who aren't people anymore, just empty bodies following orders." But as she speaks, Teddy sees the silent woman again, impossibly, inexplicably, standing at the cave entrance, watching their conversation with that same knowing gaze. When Teddy turns back to Rachel, something has changed in her eyes. For a moment she looks like Dolores, then like no one at all. The cave, Rachel vanishes in the blink of an eye, leaving Teddy alone with his fracturing perception. Was she ever really there? Was anyone? Back at the hospital, exhausted and disoriented, Teddy spots the silent woman across the courtyard. This time, he approaches her directly. "What do you know?" he demands. "Why do you keep watching me?" She doesn't respond. Verbally, but her eyes hold his with unnerving steadiness. Then slowly, deliberately, she reaches out and touches his badge, the badge that felt wrong in his hands. Her touch is gentle but intentional, like she's drawing attention to something important. When Teddy looks down at the badge and back up, she's gone. That night his dreams are more vivid than ever. Dolores appears, her body both burning and dripping water, holding a little girl in her arms. "You know she didn't die in the fire," Dolores says. "Who?" Teddy asks. "Rachel. She drowned her children. Just like she should have. You can't save someone who's already dead, Teddy." He wakes, gasping, the line between dreams and reality blurring beyond recognition. The storm has passed, but something worse has taken its place. A growing suspicion that the island isn't deceiving him. He's deceiving himself. The silent woman has appeared consistently throughout his investigation, always watching, never interfering. Maybe she isn't warning him about the island. Maybe she's warning him about himself. Her silence isn't a symptom of madness, but a response to it, to his madness, his delusion, his elaborate fiction. In her eyes lies the truth he's been running from. She doesn't speak because for Teddy, the truth is still unspeakable. As Teddy finally makes his way to the lighthouse, the heart of his conspiracy theory, everything unravels. There are no experimental chambers, no Nazi doctors, no sinister lobotomy assembly line. There's only a room, a table, and Dr. Corley waiting patiently. "Your name is not Edward Daniels," Corley says gently. "It's Andrew Laedis." The revelation crashes through Teddy's carefully constructed reality. He is not a U.S. Marshal investigating a missing patient. He is patient 67, Andrew Laedis, a man who murdered his manic-depressive wife after she drowned their 3 children. The Rachel Solando he was searching for was an anagram of his wife's name, Dolores Chanal. Edward Daniels was an anagram of Andrew Laedis. He created this detective persona 2 years ago as a way to escape his unbearable guilt. His partner, Chuck, is actually Dr. Sheehan, his primary psychiatrist. The investigation was an elaborate role-play therapy, a last attempt to break through his delusion before the hospital's board mandates a lobotomy. For 2 years, Andrew has cycled through this same detective fantasy, each time constructing an elaborate conspiracy to justify his presence on the island while avoiding the truth of why he's really there. As evidence mounts and his fiction collapses, Teddy, Andrew, experiences flashes of the real past. Not the fire he invented to make his wife a victim, but the lake where he found his children floating in the water. Not the arsonist he's been hunting, but the moment he shot Dolores, believing her death would be a mercy after what she'd done. "Your migraines began when you came off your medication," Dr. Corley explains. "The dreams, the inconsistencies, all withdrawal symptoms we had to let you experience. You've been medicated since you arrived. until this week. The silent woman who has haunted the edges of his investigation now appears in his memory. Not as a patient, but as a nurse who has witnessed his cycles of delusion from the beginning. She was never insane. She was one of his caretakers, someone who recognized his patterns, who knew exactly what was happening because she'd seen it before. Her silence wasn't madness. It was professional distance coupled with human empathy. The reason she watched him so intently throughout his investigation was because she was monitoring him, observing his behavior during this crucial experiment. Her finger to her lips wasn't a delusion. It was a quiet instruction to other staff not to intervene, to let the role-play therapy run its course. She never needed to scream the truth. She lived it day after day, watching Andrew cycle through his fantasy. That moment when she touched his badge, she was trying to get him to really look at it, to notice the inconsistencies, to question his own narrative. Each appearance was a potential moment of breakthrough that slipped past him. In one devastating flashback, Andrew remembers his arrival at Ashcliffe 2 years earlier. Violent, inconsolable, raging against reality. And there she was, the silent woman, not as a patient, but as part of the medical staff who helped restrain him, who witnessed his break from reality, who has been present for every false awakening and relapse since. Your partner, Dr. Sheehan. He's been patient with you, Andrew, Corley says. We all have been, but this is the last time we can try this approach, if you can't stay grounded in reality. The unfinished sentence hangs in the air. Lobotomy. Ward C, becoming one of the ghosts he feared. As Andrew struggles to accept his true identity, we recontextualize every scene where the silent woman appeared. She wasn't crazy. She was aware. She wasn't being controlled. She was part of the staff trying to help him regain control. She wasn't a victim of the system. She was a witness to his victimhood. Her silence wasn't an absence of truth, but a presence of it. A truth so complete it required no explanation. Only observation, only patience, only hope that this time Andrew might see himself clearly. The next morning, Andrew seems lucid. He recognizes Dr. Sheehan, acknowledges his true identity, and appears to have finally broken through his delusion. But as they sit on the steps of the hospital, something shifts in his demeanor. He calls his doctor Chuck again, refers to another conspiracy, slides back into the comfort of his Teddy Daniels persona. Dr. Sheehan makes eye contact with Dr. Corley across the lawn. It didn't work. Andrew has retreated back into his fantasy, unable to bear the weight of his actions, unwilling to live as the man who destroyed his family. The lobotomy will proceed as scheduled, as orderlies approach to take him to the lighthouse, where the procedure will actually take place. Andrew delivers the film's most haunting line, which would be worse, to live as a monster or to die as a good man. It's a moment of devastating clarity within apparent delusion. Andrew knows exactly who he is and what he's done. He remembers murdering his wife after discovering their drowned children. He understands that his mind created Teddy Daniels as a shield against unbearable guilt. And in this moment of lucidity, he makes a choice. By pretending to relapse, by intentionally failing the role-play therapy, Andrew chooses lobotomy. He chooses to have his personality erased rather than live with the knowledge of his actions. To die as a good man, as the heroic Marshal Teddy Daniels, rather than continue as the monster who destroyed his family. As he walks with the orderlies toward the lighthouse, Andrew passes the silent woman one last time. Their eyes meet in a moment of complete understanding. She knows what he's doing, that his relapse is actually his final choice, that he's choosing oblivion over remembrance. She doesn't try to stop him, doesn't call out, doesn't interfere. She simply inclines her head slightly, an acknowledgement of his decision, a gesture of respect for his choice to escape the only way he can. This isn't madness, it's surrender. The silent woman who has witnessed every cycle of his delusion now witnesses his final acceptance of a different kind of delusion, one that will be permanent. Her silence, which has felt ominous throughout, now feels like compassion, understanding without judgment, witnessing without condemning. In those final steps toward the lighthouse, toward the procedure that will erase his identity, Andrew Laedis is finally at peace. Not because he's escaping into fantasy, but because he's escaping from himself. There's one moment, barely a second long, that redefines the whole movie. A patient silently puts a finger to her lips, a quiet shh. It's dismissed as madness, but what if it wasn't? Remember that garden scene early in the film, when Teddy first notices the silent woman watching him? In that single moment, Scorsese tells us everything if only we're paying attention. Shutter Island isn't just about a man's desperate attempt to escape his guilt through elaborate fiction. It's also about those who witness our self-deception, who see us more clearly than we see ourselves, who know when to speak and when silence. There's more than words ever could. On Shutter Island, the loudest screams are never heard. But silence? Silence knows everything. If you felt what I felt, type this in the comments. The truth was watching me all along. If this breakdown changed how you see Shutter Island, hit the like button and subscribe. Are countless films whose hidden truths wait to be unlocked, whose silent witnesses have been overlooked. The greatest mysteries aren't solved by what characters say, but by what they know well enough not to speak at all.